Hey guys, 6404 here, Horrorboy465. Welcome back to some more reviews. And I wanted to see if I can actually wrap up the rest of the franchise tonight. I only have 2 more movies to review. And, while this review for Blade 2 is uploading, I'll actually be filming my review for Blade Trinity. So I'll be filming this review as this review is uploading. So I'm going to try and see if I can actually get the films wrapped up tonight. Yeah, so I'm going to try and do that. Like I said, I'll be filming the review for Blade Trinity as this one's uploading. But yeah, so continuing my reviews for the Blade trilogy with Blade 2. Now, Blade 2, of course, this is the 2-disc special edition. You actually have in here a booklet for the soundtrack. And you also do have it right here for the video game, which I really want to get. I don't know if it's a good game or a bad game. I haven't heard too much about it, but I definitely want to check it out. So yeah, there's a little thing in here for Blade 2, the soundtrack. There's also in the back of it, Blade 2, the video game. And there's like this weird blank piece of paper in here for some reason. But then there's also the, well, I could show you guys like that, but see, it's like a blank piece of paper. I don't know. Blade 2, the first disc right there, and then we got Blade 2, the second disc, which looks like some vampire teeth right there. Blade 2, really cool 2-disc set. I've seen quite a bit of the features. I watched about halfway of the movie. I watched about half the movie with the commentary with Wesley Snipes and writer David Goyer. There's also a second commentary with director Guillermo del Toro and producer Peter Frankfurt. So you also got that, and you got Disc 2, which is loaded with features. You got featurettes, deleted scenes, art gallery, trailers, music video, Blade 2 video game survival guide, which I want to get this video game. I seen the commercial for it on Blade 2 the VHS, which I also had this movie on VHS on the first movie. But I definitely wanted to check it out. The gameplay footage didn't look that bad. But I don't know if it's a good game or not. I have no clue. I know nothing about the Blade 2 video game. But I remember when I had this VHS tape. Now, believe it or not, I did not break this VHS tape. Well, when I had a VHS tape of Blade 2. I actually got rid of it and got a DVD version. And I had the VHS tape before I had the DVD version. And if you guys didn't know, when I watched the first Blade, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. That's one of my childhood favorite movies. Yeah, I watched Blade as a child, and I wasn't scared by it because it showed that you can fight vampires. And you could have swords and chopping vampires' heads off and their arms off and stuff. And taking a silver boomerang knife thing and throwing it and chopping vampires' heads off and stuff. So I wasn't really scared of the first movie. It definitely had some unsettling stuff, though. But for the most part, it just showed that, you could fight back against vampires. I just really thought that was great. And the Blade character being a vampire, half human, half vampire, and him fighting vampires. Just as a kid, thought it was a very cool movie and a very cool idea. And I thought the same thing about Blade 2. I mean, Blade 2, it's my second favorite, but it's a very close second favorite. This movie, it is one of my favorite sequels of all time. I can definitely say that with Blade 2. It's a 6.7 on IMDb. That's a little too low. I mean, it's not too much below a 7.0, but still, I don't know about that rating. I think it should be at least a 7.0. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, who also directed, I believe, the first Mimic. I think he directed the first Mimic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he directed Mimic, The Devil's Backbone, Hellboy, Pacific Rim, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, Pan's Labyrinth. He also directed Crimson Peak, which I'm not a fan of that movie. I do want to see. I've seen Hellboy. I do want to see Hellboy 2. I do want to see Pacific Rim and check it out and see how it is. I do want to see Pan's Labyrinth. I heard it was good. I also do want to see the Devil's Backbone. I want to see that too. You know, it sounds interesting. So I've heard about most of his movies. I just haven't seen them all yet. I seen a little bit of Mimic, and it was okay. You know, it wasn't really. I didn't think it was amazing, but you know, it was okay so far. I only got like halfway through the movie, and I think I just turned it off. But you know, it was okay. But I did see Crimson Peak, and that is a horrible horror film. I think it's a cliche. For some reason, I get a 6.6 on IMDb. That movie is horrible. I thought it was awful. I thought it was definitely one of his worst movies. I just did not care for that movie, Crimson Peak. But I love Blade 2. I think Guillermo del Toro is a big fan of Lucio Fulci. I believe there's actually, on that Blu-ray of Zombie that I have, there's actually an intro to the movie from Guillermo del Toro. And, you know, I think he's a big fan of Lucio Fulci, so that's pretty interesting. But Blade 2 is definitely, you know, on par with the first movie. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's not my favorite, but I think it's about on the same level as the first movie. I can say it's a classic. I can say it's a great action film. I can just say that I love Blade 2. I think it's great. Because it's taking a concept that was already amazing, and it's upgrading it. It's saying, okay, the previous movie was Blade versus vampires. How about we have Blade and Blade 2, you know, sort of having to team up with vampires and take out these mutant vampires. These vampires that their face opens up and they have teeth. They have this like giant freaking inside of their mouth like a giant fang thing. And they're sort of these mutated vampires that are, you know, growing out of, they're just populating and they're killing vampires. And then Blade comes into the mix because, you know, maybe one day they would go after the humans after they kill the vampires. So the vampires are starting to get killed by these mutant vampires. I love that idea of upgrading it, of saying, okay, we had the previous movie of Blade versus vampires. How about we have Blade versus these mutant vampires who are immune to silver and immune to, I think they might be immune to garlic too. I think so. But I know they're immune to silver, but the only weakness they have is sunlight. And I just really love that idea. And I love the soundtrack. I love the music to the movie. The way this movie is shot, the way that Guillermo del Toro lit the movie was very interesting, and how it had those really dark scenes in the tunnels and stuff like that. And I love they brought back that dark EDM score. They also added in some really great rap songs, and really love the score to this movie. Wesley Snipes returning back as Blade did a fantastic job delivering a performance that's on par with the first movie. It's definitely a great performance by Wesley Snipes in this movie as Blade. And the movie storyline is pretty much, you know, at the beginning of the movie, you have Blade killing some vampires. That great scene where he flips up the motorcycle, lands, and as he's jumping, he I think the motorcycle hits somebody. I think so. And when before he flips off of it, though, he gets on the back of the motorcycle, takes this like silver like fiber wire thing and like does this and pops the vampire's head off. And you know, he shoots the other vampire and he falls into a pile of bones. You have that great scene where he's driving the motorcycle and he stops right before he hits his car and he just looks at it and goes, you know, like that scene. I like the scene where he's in the dance club. These vampires and Blade, they go in this dance club, and you know, you actually have the guy who played Hellboy, Ron Perlman, in this movie, and he's a great actor, does a great job, and you know, there's also a great cast in this movie once again. I mean, you got Chris Christopherson coming back as Whistler because he actually survived the first movie. Ron Perlman, you got Norman Reedus playing Scud. Really enjoyed that character. I also really enjoyed the cast that played this team of vampires that were like these elite vampires trained to kill Blade, so they're ready and prepared for this mission. Really enjoyed that cast of characters. And I know this review is like sort of going off the rails and stuff, but I mean, Blade 2 is just fun. Absolute fun. I love this movie. But the story, like I said, it continues on where Blade, he's on the hunt for Chris Christopherson, who's looking for him, and you find the vampire sort of found him before he died and has taken him, and they've been keeping him alive and feeding him blood. And Blade goes to this secret club, and you have this guy sniffing red cocaine, so it's like blood cocaine. Crazy idea. And he got to where he takes a vampire hostage. Blade does, and the guy goes, "It's me, it's me." And the guy's like, well, the security guard's like, "What's the password?" He's like, "It's me," and he says the password, and the boy like busts down, and Blade goes in and shoots these vampires. You have a really great action scene where he's fighting vampires and he's killing them left and right. Takes like these knives, get that great scene right here with the knives. Takes these knives out and does this, and is cutting vampires up. And then he points to this one guy who's like the one left vampire. He's like, "I'll catch you later." And the vampire runs out of there. He actually runs into that vampire back at the, later on in the movie where he's at this dance club. He sees him, and the guy's like, "Hey, don't shoot me, man." And Blade just sort of looks at him like that, and he just gets out of there, and Blade just sort of like, laughs it off. Thought it was great. But he finds Whistler in this tube of blood. He's being fed blood. And he is trying to cure him, takes him back to the lair. You get this new character named Scud, who is sort of this guy that, had these two girls out in a tent, and they turned into vampires and was ripping them apart, and Blade saved them. And Norman Reedus did a great job playing Scud, this sort of fun character who, Whistler, when he comes to and he's back to a human again because he's cured, he walks in, he's like, "I don't like it when people mess with my wife's work." And, the back, like, the sort of, I don't know, say, like, the sort of mini rivalry between Scud and Whistler was really great. And I like how they sort of start to become friends, and then, spoiler alert, you find out that Scud is actually a bad guy. So, and then when Scud gets killed, he's like, "I was actually starting to like that guy." So it's actually pretty fun stuff. And, you meet Scud, and Whistler actually gets cured. He's not a vampire anymore. And he asks Blade, he's like, "How long was I gone?" And Blade goes, "Too long." And he goes, "Years." And I just remember a lot of the scenes from this movie. These vampires show up. They're wearing these suits so they can't get hurt by the sun rays or the UV ultraviolet lamps. I couldn't say them right. UV lamps. They couldn't get hurt by these UV lights. And they fight Blade at that great scene where Blade's fighting them both and beats them. And they say they have a message from this sort of grand vampire. And Blade is sort of, at first I want to do it, but then he also gets, told that there's something going on. And Blade goes to this main base for these vampires, meets sort of the, big cheese vampire, the big chief of it all, the boss vampire, the lord vampire, whatever, basically like the master vampire. And I guess it's like he has like cancer for vampires. He's all like decayed looking and stuff. And I believe he was played by, what was it, Thomas Kretschmann, who was also in Resident Evil Apocalypse, remember from that movie. He was also in King Kong, Wanted, and Downfall. So I remember from Resident Evil Apocalypse, he played the bad guy in that movie. He plays the bad guy in this movie, so, did a pretty good job playing this head vampire. And he pretty much explains to Blade that the vampires are making this elite team, and they were made to kill Blade, but now there's a new enemy. There are these vampires, these mutant vampires who are like bald and really, really decayed looking. They have this really weird design, crazy design where their like face splits open right here, their jaw does, they have like teeth right here. Really, really crazy idea. And you have Blade versus a new enemy. And you have sort of this Patient Zero guy who is the son, you find out at the end of the movie, to the Master Vampire. But pretty much it's Blade teaming up with these vampires, this elite team of vampires. They suit up and they go to this club, and they discover these mutant vampires, and they find that they're immune to silver, but they're not immune to sunlight. And you got that great, just well-done action scene where you know, this guy named Priest, he gets bit right here. They're shooting these vampires, but they're not really doing too much damage. Blade sort of fights the Patient Zero guy, the guy sort of started all the Carrier, and sort of gets beat up a little bit, but also does beat up the Carrier guy as well. And basically from there on, a few people get infected and bit, some of them die. And from there on, it's them going in these tunnels and hunting down these mutant vampires and killing them off. And I like how they end of the movie. You found out that Blade was set up, that this master vampire had this plan to get rid of his son, but at the same time stop Blade, and he was going to use Blade as his ultimate weapon, or he's going to also use Blade once again, and he's going to make his own race of perfect vampires, his own race of these daywalkers in a way. And at the end of the movie, Blade gets sort of put in this trap, and it's kind of like the ending of the first movie where he has spikes through his arm. They're going to use his blood, and you even have a rampage scene at the end of the movie, just like the ending of the first movie. So, I mean, I liked it, though. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really fun. But, it's definitely like the first movie where he has that rampage scene. And Blade tells his guy, he's like, the Carrier is still out there. The guy's like, oh, no, he's not. Doesn't even know where we're at. And Blade goes, yeah, he does. And the Carrier guy comes in and kills a lot of vampires. And then at the end of the movie where these vampire security guards, they're getting around Chris Christopherson's character and Scud and all of them. And you have Ron Perlman. He's still alive. He has this explosive in the back of his head. Really enjoyed that. But he's sort of beating up Whistler a little bit. And Blade gets out of this. Well, actually, I think Whistler, he escapes because I think it's even before Blade got captured, where Scud's like, "Oh, I'm a bad guy" and stuff, and he takes the explosive out of the back of Ron Perlman's head. He's like, "See, this is a dud," and Blade goes, "It's not a dud. I suspected you from day one." And the guy Scud looks at the bomb, and he just like explodes. The bomb goes off and it explodes into a bunch of gore. It was great. It was definitely a really great death scene. And the ending was just awesome, where it's Blade does like a WWE suplex through the glass, punching people in the face and breaking the mask in a million pieces. Whistler gets out of there and saves Blade, and they're sort of getting shot at a little bit. And Blade falls into this pool of blood, and I love that shot where just Blade rises out of the blood, and he just Whistler throws the glasses, and once again he catches it in midair and puts the glasses back on. He's back in a rampage mode. He's breaking arms and breaking necks, and a lot of fighting and flipping people and breaking the glass floor. Great set design as well. The base just had some really great set design. There's these glass floors and stuff like that. He's flipping people and breaking the glass. He's breaking people's necks. Goes up to the main bad guy of the movie, the master vampire guy, who runs away. This sort of love interest for Blade. She gets killed by her brother. She gets bit right here, and he kills her. Well, she's nearly dead. And there's actually a scene where he bites his dad and kills his dad. And then it's Blade versus the Carrier vampire. Blade in rampage mode versus this Carrier vampire. And they sort of have equal power. One is unable to overpower the other. They're sort of both at the same strength. They can't overpower one another. And Blade takes a sword, though, and the guy breaks his sword. But he takes the sword, the broken part, and shoves it right here in the guy's chest. And the guy sort of gives up the fight, and he falls on the ground. And he sort of goes like, "Funny, isn't it? Or strange, isn't it?" And then takes the sword and then shoves it in his heart, and you have him melting, and Blade kills the mutant vampire Carrier guy. And at the end of the movie, you have Blade carrying out the girl to the sunlight, and she just sort of fades away. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. But yeah, I mean, Blade 2 is just really a very well-made movie, and It's honestly one of my favorite sequels of all time. I mean, it's a sequel that I don't really have any problems with. I can honestly say, though, that the ending felt a lot like the first movie. It felt like it was pretty much, like, the Rampage part was pretty much from the first movie. But I can still have fun with that idea. I still love the scene. It was well shot, well choreographed. Some really, really great fighting scenes. Or some really great fighting stuff and stunts and stuff like that in that scene. But yeah, Blade 2, I just think it's great. Love Blade 2. Great sequel. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Blade 2. And here in a minute, I'm going to be talking about the third movie, Blade Trinity, as this review is uploading. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching the review on Blade 2. The Explorer 4 out. See you guys later.